Active FM. Radio has never been better.
What is up?
How's it going?
This is the movie show.
On Active FM.
And we are doing the worst Quentin Tarantino film. And he said it is his worst film.
Yeah,
We're not even like out here being like, yeah, we think in our personal opinion.
Didn't he say that because of what it made?
The bad reviews,
Yeah.
So people when
But
this
he
film...
enjoyed making it though.
He loved making it.
Yeah.
But when it came out, people were just like, what on earth? And then it didn't do well. And then he was like, okay, guys, you know what? It's my worst film. But then he said, because we all know that, okay, we might not all know this, so I'm going to say it. Quentin Tarantino has stated that he will only direct 10 films. Only. In his whole career. He will then go on to write novels. He said he wants to do theatre productions as well. So like when he's done his 10th film, he's currently made 9. So he's got 1 more left. And once he's done that one, he then wants to go on to, you know, a much simpler life of writing books and doing stage plays.
Wow.
Yeah. So in his words, this is his worst film. But then he said...
Yeah.
If you think this is my worst film, it's still a good film, which means my worst film is not the worst film. It's actually a pretty good, bad film.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So watching this, I was just like, oh, okay. But then getting a bit of reference and background about the film. So this film was part of okay. In history, there was a time when the household television took over and killed the cinema star.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they started doing is they started making weird movies.
But the reason for that was city cinemas specifically took a hit because people were staying at home.
They were sitting at home.
So those city cinemas decided to play cheaper films at cheaper rates. But these cheaper films were like slasher films.
Exploitation films.
Yeah, like hectic films.
Like weird stuff, like cannibalism, death. Like I almost feel like that's where the horror like era like almost started.
But there's horror and then there's like slasher
like,
film.
This is weird.
This
films.
is a slasher film.
Yeah.
This is like...
And that pulled everyone in.
Yeah.
So this was almost...
But apparently that film era, even though it was like cheap films, you can't like almost... be like, okay, yeah, whatever, it was just a bad period for the film history or film period, whatever. But because that film era gave rise to people like James Cameron.
Yeah.
So his one of his first films was those type of films. So like it is, even though it's an ugly part of the film era, it's like an essential part type of thing because it gave rise to many people that we know today. Yeah.
But you don't think that he would have maybe started off, like instead of him doing a film like that so that it could go out in cinema, maybe he would have done a different film?
This film's weird though, because so what would happen was in those days you'd have what you call a double feature, right? So that's when you're actually getting 2 movies. So you watch 2 separate movies, but they play right after one another. Now this film, Death Proof, was Quentin Tarantino's 5th film, is actually a double feature, and both movies together are called Grindhouse. And the second movie was directed by Robert Rodriguez, and he made a film that was about zombies, and it was called Silent Something. No, I forgot. I can't find the name of the second film. But basically, those 2 films work together. It's called Planet Terror. There we go. So that movie is basically all about these... I think it's also women who fight zombies. But also it's a slasher film. So it's not like... It's gory, it's over gory, etc., etc. And then this film, Death Proof, was more of like a car chase. That was the theme. Together, both of those films were 4 hours in length, but then obviously separate, this film is just under 2 hours.
Yeah, there's the 4-hour thing again.
Yes, but then this film, Quentin Tarantino also released it by itself, especially at like the Cannes Film Festival and stuff, and then he actually added footage. So there's an extended version of the movie, and then there's the version that was released as the double feature with Planet Terror. So quite an interesting concept, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Quite weird.
But people didn't. They weren't like. Yeah, they really weren't.
People were just like, okay.
Yeah. Which I find slightly sad.
Nothing too interesting, but looking at that era and the whole death of like the film and how it relates to Mike the stuntman,
Yes.
and how he was trying to bring back to life the whole thing of stuntman, like he had a sore spot. And so now he was almost taking it out on
Well, he had a weird way of
like a lot
taking
of
it
women
out.
and the scar. Remember I told you about the eye patch? Remember I said, I don't know why I see the guy with the eye patch.
And then he has a scar over
And then
his
he's got
eye.
a score, and I'm like, that eye. There's something about that eye. That eye. Either eye patch or scar. What else?
Kurt Russell wasn't originally, though, Quentin's first choice for the role of Stuntman Mike. Stuntman Mike, if you haven't watched this film, basically he's a stuntman who hasn't had the best career, and the film industry is changing. CGI is coming in, so they don't need stuntmen to do the things that they used to do anymore. And so he's kind of out of work, etc. So in order to get back the same feeling that he felt when he was doing those stunts, he decides to take the car that was built for the stunts and kill women with it.
Death
Literally,
proof.
that's how he gets. I'm
And
like, what is wrong with you?
And death-proofing a car is an actual concept. It's a stunt. It's how they make a stuntman's car, or like especially like I don't know if you've ever been to a bumper car like rally type of thing where they just like keep bumping each other and smashing. So it's death-proofing the car for the stuntmans. Although I highly doubt that though, because like for example in the film, like there's a head-on collision. Like that whole head-on collision was just like what? But
he survived. He was the one person who survived.
Although in that one the car sort of goes over.
Yeah.
Where in a head-on collision, if they hit like okay, fact, two cars if they have a head-on collision at 60 kilometers an hour, work that out in your miles, that would kill like basically everyone in the car.
Only 60.
Yeah, because of your organs and Go look it up. Go look at the medical. Because of the dead stop, the force from this side, the force from the opposite end, they hit each other. Even at 60 k's an hour, will be fatal. Like you might be like, oh, I'm fine. Next minute, there's probably blood coming out of your ears or something like that because your brain has hit the front of your skull at such a speed. It's probably. Take Jello, take jelly, throw it against the wall,
Nice,
see what it does. That's what I'm talking about.
I feel like you'd have to take 2 things of jelly and throw it at each other and have them hit one another at the same. Then you'd know.
At this point, we need footage of jelly in slow-mo in the air. One red, one green.
Oh, yeah. The
so that
different
you can
colors
see
are.
exactly, so you can see exactly what each one does.
Can I just say, as gory as that crash was, and it was gory. It was brilliantly done, which is so weird because it's such a graphic scene. It's like literally you have a close up of what happens to the chick's face. Like each chick. In fact, there's 4 chicks in the car. They show you exactly what happens, and they even have time to put in a Wilhelm scream. I don't know. I was just like, now's not the time to be bringing comedy into the situation. But it was brilliantly filmed. Do you know that Quentin Tarantino was the DOP for this film?
As well.
He chose to do the cinematography. I was like, oh my good. And the shots are brilliant. The shots really are good in this film. Like he does that 360 table turn conversation in the restaurant with the latter, there's the 4 girls that come in later on. Apparently Kurt Russell was in that scene. I think you could see him sitting in the background. Which is very freaky.
You see, now that we think of Pulp Fiction and now we think of this film, it is...
Yeah. When I watched a video on this film, the person that was speaking about it was actually saying that this film paid homage, even though it's not set in the 1960s and 70s. It's actually set modern day. The reason you know that is because, I don't know if you remember, what was the radio presenter's name? You know what I'm talking about in the beginning. So she's messaging that guy to come join them at the bar, and the type of phone she's using is a modern phone. Well, not now, but back then. Yeah. So it's set modern, but then it starts the way. So you can see it's film that's being used, and some segments are in black and white, which is the 60s era. It's not the modern era. And then other segments, like the footage is very grainy, very scratched, and even at times there's jumps in the footage. And the reason he did that was because in those days, so you'd film a film on film. That's what's called a film, because you literally used film to shoot your movie. Then you'd edit the film So in other words, you'd actually cut and put the film, you wouldn't put it into a computer, and then you'd actually be using the actual film. And then
close up take, long shot,
There we go.
cut it at 45 degrees, you join it
Yes.
together,
And even the black and white thing was quite interesting because if they, for example, like I think they said if they lost the negatives, then they'd have to put it in black and white. So like sometimes films in those days would actually suddenly turn black and white just because they lost the, what is it that makes it color?
I don't know, that's why I'm like,
I'm not very,
The film?
but I know there were times where, so that one of the segments that was in black and white, they were like saying it could have been homage to those times in the film industry where something was lost and then they only had the black and white version of the scene. So they had to now use the black and white version. But then also on top of that, you would send a film reel now to the cinemas and now they would play the film for when people were watching the movie. So nothing was digital. And then what would happen was sometimes like if the film wasn't sent in the right packaging or if it wasn't treated correctly, then you'd get the scratches. Obviously if it tore, they'd have to stick it back together, but then you'd literally lose a piece of the movie. That's why there'd be a jump. So what Quentin Tarantino was doing was he was literally paying homage to that film era, but also treating the footage itself like the footage would have been in that era. But then at the same time, it also pays homage to Stuntman Mike, because Stuntman Mike's peak in his career was the 1960s and 70s. Those were the types of films he was doing his work in. And now he was being forgotten as the film industry modernized, etc., etc. And then also what it represents is that, so whenever they show the footage as being that 1960s, 70s style, it's that Stuntman Mike he's got like the power and he's controlling things. And then even when he's scouting the second group of girls to murder the second group of girls, it's in black and white. And in the 1960s and 70s, it was very expensive to print color photographs. And actors would have to send headshots of themselves out to like many studios, and it was cheaper to print your headshots in black and white than in color. So most casting calls had black and white photographs involved.
That's
and
why
he
you see
was
a lot
doing
of that. Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and he was doing a casting call for his next victims. So that's why that scene, while he's there, it's black and white, and then as soon as he leaves, it becomes color. Because now he's not doing the casting call anymore. But then also the whole movie isn't like that, so it's not all that full grainy film footage that's cutting and stuff. What happens is when the second set of girls show up, they're also in the film industry. So the one is a makeup artist, the one is an actress, and then two are they also do stunts.
The stunts driver, and then the New Zealand stuntswoman who actually she's as herself. She acts as herself.
Yes. She is a stuntswoman.
Zoe,
Zoe
right?
Bell.
Yeah.
She did all of the stunt work for Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. Right?
Wow, cool.
How cool is that? And then also when Quentin cast her, he then said to her, we're going to get a stunt person in for you. And she was like, why? You're paying me to do what I do. So she actually does all of her stunts. So her hanging out of the car while a car, that scene was,
That's crazy stuff.
I was freaking out.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was hanging on the car as well.
Yeah.
Is insane.
You saw her gloves that she was wearing. I was like, oh, that's nice. Because, I mean, you wouldn't be able to.
No, you wouldn't be able to hold the grip. Yeah.
Not a chance.
But then when the film basically ends with them as girls in the film industry now like giving Stuntman Mike his own medicine type of thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even about justice. It was just that he had started this cat mouse chase and they decided they weren't going to lose it. Literally it wasn't a call for justice or anything like that. So they then go after him and then end up beating him to death and killing him. But then whenever they step in, the footage stops being the whole 60s thing. And it's almost like Quentin was showing now they've got control. So I like how he did these things that you wouldn't actually pick up, but you can actually like tie it up with
just some like creative ideas.
But it's not just okay, let's make it black and white for fun. You know, we're making it black and white because of which So I personally, the first part of the film was very slow.
Yeah.
It was very slow. It was just like conversations. It was mainly just conversations. And then as soon as the first murder happens, then you're like, oh my goodness. And then after that, you now know what he's about. So you know what he's capable of.
From there it went pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then the four girls, I really enjoyed that part of the film. And then obviously the fact that because I was just like, he's going to kill them. And then he doesn't. He is murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I personally agree
Most of the
with.
time throughout the film, I'm like, how many of these casts does he have? Because the way that he just like, yeah.
And they would have done all of that for real because Quentin Tarantino's not... Quentin Tarantino literally believes that the digitalization of the film industry is the ruin of the film industry.
Yeah.
Which in a way, I understand where he's coming from. I
Look,
really do.
There's two things to it. It's the amount of work and fun that goes into it. Okay, now you need to get filmed. This is the way you got to handle it. Remember, we got to shoot this like this because you've only got about, what was it, like 9 minutes of time per reel. And then there's the development. And then this is how we're going to cut it. It's a lot of fun. This is how we get used to it, etc. Then cinema goes in cinema. It's not easily accessible. So it makes it a lot more... you see people getting dressed, they're coming there, there's popcorn, it
was an event.
They're renting, they sit in the movie house, big screen, the sound's ready, blah, blah, blah. Where nowadays, like I was actually thinking about it, watching one of his interviews, how today, I just now pull out my phone, select a movie.
Watch it.
In fact, no jokes, on Saturday, me and my family were trying to find a good movie to watch, and we were literally going through trailers. So, that looks like a good film. Okay, wait. Trailer, play the trailer. No, not a good, because the problem was that and I've spoken about it before, where you look for a good movie to watch by looking at the cover of the film, and the problem is that every movie doesn't look interesting.
That is so
except
true.
the ones that you've watched. So that's when we were like, okay, let's see this one. Okay, let's see the trailer. No, that's not good at all. Okay, stay away from that one. Cover my kids' eyes. Okay, no, we're not watching that one. So we literally went through a whole lot of trailers for about a good 45 minutes.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
They actually have a term for it. I think it's called something like search fatigue or something like that, where you're browsing on a streaming site for something to watch and you can't find anything, and eventually you're just like, that's what I personally do. If I want to find a movie, I'll search either a director and then look at the movies he's made, or I'll search an actor that I like and enjoys their performance and their work, and then stuff like that.
I did Christian Bale. Like his older films are like, okay, no. I wanted to watch American Psycho. Is it American Psycho?
Isn't that with Tom Cruise?
It's possibly, but then it's not a family film.
Wait. American Psycho is the one where Christian Bale lost weight, wasn't it?
Possibly.
When he got very skinny.
Possibly.
I think that's that one.
That was the one that I definitely wanted to watch. And then I searched, then per director, and I was just like, okay, this is not working because I got to find a family film. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's what it is today now. It's a streaming site. You go from movie to movie, and then you even decide halfway, okay, no, stop, okay, let's watch another one. Where you go to a movie house, you got your selection. Or, how many times do you actually go to cinema? You're like, I don't know what film I'm going to watch. Most of the time you're like, no, we want to go watch, this, it just came out, really awesome.
It's hype.
Let's go watch it, exactly.
But also, so like, I feel like the generation we live in as well is also problematic when it comes to the film industry, because like we live in a social media generation, which means that most people's attention span is very short. Most people cannot sit through a film these days. They actually can't. Then so there's that side which people now can't watch a movie because it's 2 hours long or whatever. Then the other side is you have people who now binge watch and literally will sit and watch a series that isn't actually that great. It's just there's a 3-way love triangle, and that's what's keeping them watching it now.
And every time it ends, it's like
and
ends
they're
on a high.
dragging it, and the story is trash, and the cinematography is trash, and the acting is trash.
No,
Everything's
the cinematography is never trash.
No, sometimes the cinematography is trash. But then now watch that for 12 hours consecutively, as in they literally sit down for 12. I mean, who watches TV for 12 hours? What's wrong with you?
No.
Sorry for all the bingers out there.
I'm
not one of those people. But like, so you have two extremes of either not being able to watch because my attention span is so short, or I'm willing to watch trash for 12 hours just because I want to binge. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now, like, the quality of the film industry has gone out of the window. Plus now it's just a money-making scheme because you've got all of these different streaming sites that want to have the best and the latest and the most unique show that everyone's going to leave that streaming site and come to this streaming site. So forget about quality. Let's just make something that people will be super hyped over. Yeah. And then it's not even good at the end. The film industry. I feel like I get where Quentin Tarantino says that the digital age has ruined the film industry. On the other side, I understand that making it digital has made it easier for independent filmmakers. Yeah. But the thing is, independent filmmakers need to make movies not because they want to become famous, but actually just for the love of film. Yeah.
I would say that in terms of digital, yes, so what you've just said, but we've already on the movie show, we've discovered directors who probably do use digital. So you can abuse digital because there are like effects and stuff like that like it's a comedy show. It's not even it's supposed to be a, sci-fi, but it's a comedy show. You're like, what? Did they seriously just do that? Are you serious that they just, like, apparently the Matrix, the latest Matrix, there's a train scene in there. And apparently the CG is like, bad. Maybe for an average person, they'll be like, oh, what's wrong? But there's a lot of stuff. But then there are a lot of directors in that sort of the digital sort of filmmaking would actually help them. Like a lot. Like, let's look at what was that one, Steven Spielberg's film, the Ready Player One.
No, like that.
You see how there's CG in it, but look at how he used the CG.
He used CG prop. Even The Revenant.
With storytelling, yes.
Revenant was brilliant, and the way they used CG was brilliant. That was really good.
Yeah, so there's the two sides of it. So it's like this big garbage bag, like full of stuff. And you have to get your hands dirty just getting through some of the rubbish, but then there is some of the good stuff.
But you know what's sad? I've stopped watching modern films because, like, I'm constantly disappointed.
It's true. Do you know how often I have to remind myself, I'm like, that's an old movie. I'm like, but wait, hang on. But
old movies are literally this past week, I think I definitely watched 3 films that were all probably made before 2010. 3 films. Is it? This past week.
I watched one,
Literally all made before the year 2010. 2010, I'd say to maybe like 2000 this year sucked. This year's films, there were like 1 or 2 or 3 that were good. Yeah. But most of the films this year have sucked. Let's be honest. Even last year in 2020, we kind of had like a deficit in films because everything was like put on hold. But like honestly, at the moment, films they're either super political, which makes no sense because your film reality world does not have the political issues that we currently face. So why are you bringing politics into it? So the new Rings of Power series, which is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings, apparently they've politicized it. So now in a fantasy world in Middle Earth with elves and dwarves and hobbits, we're now bringing in feminism and racism because now Middle Earth has those problems as well.
Suddenly has a crisis.
What? And that's like the most expensive series ever made. Ever. The most money spent on a series, and that's what we've got. A flop.
All I know is that I won't watch your film.
Whose film?
That person that does that.
Like, what? Why did we move to my film?
The universal you, that one. That makes it.
But I also feel like, so if you look at Quentin Tarantino's films, most of his films pay homage to a previous film era. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at films today; they're not doing that. And like, I'm not saying we have to always do that, but like, we need to learn from.
I feel like everyone's either trying to copy someone else, or they're trying to do something
political.
Yeah. I don't know how many of them are doing something new and different. It's not. They're always like, we're going to put a spaceship in there and there's going to be aliens and then there's going to be time travel in there and that's going to make it so cool. And it's going to be like, I've seen this I've seen.
Or they just go weird. They just go and they do things that don't make sense and you get to the end of the movie and you're confused. I recently watched a movie and I got to the end and I was like, I'm so confused. And I had to go watch film reviews to hear other people's opinion on the film because I was actually traumatized. And then when I heard them, I was like, okay, it's not just me. It's okay. Because I was literally like, I don't get it. And it's not it wasn't the storyline. It was everything.
Look, I think at the end of the day, film or making a movie can either be a story, and I don't watch a lot of like romantic movies and stuff like that, just because. Yep. Anyway, that's just my preference. I won't tell you what, but anyway, or it's some sort of art form, which it can either be very weird, or you can get it and be like, wow, that was really great. So I think film is just that media out there that people will use to express themselves, and it's either going to be really weird or it's going to be like really, really great. Yeah, like we watched Back to the Future, and I'll never like the acting. Like I really mean this very, very respectfully and out of a way to say that it was really that I actually enjoyed it, but it was cheesy, and I actually enjoyed it. Like a lot of the reactions, like there's the one scene where the bully walks in front of the camera in the foreground and Michael J. Fox is in the background. And like the way that Steven Spielberg got the shot, his eyeballs are like popping out over the top like this, like doing this. And like even the fact that they got like two young actors as his dad and his mom, and then you can see how they like made the dad like look a lot older, and like there was just but me and my son, we loved the film. We enjoyed it. It was just such a good. There's the one shot I'll never forget, and it's the first time that the car goes time travels.
Oh yes.
And the line of fire. So it's heading towards them. Now imagine the time that this was happening, that this film would have taken. I mean, you've probably never seen much of this stuff before, but the car's driving towards this. Okay, Doctor, I can't remember what his name was, but Doc, he's like so confident, and like McFly,
yeah, he's freaking out.
He's like freaking out, and then the thing disappears. And where the tire tracks were, there's this like thing of fire that like ends up right between their legs, and then like they look back, and like the feet. I was just like, wow, okay, that's cool. That is so cool. I don't know why, but I love that. I want to see that again. And then it happens again at the end, and then right at the end, like the car takes. It's like just. It's cinema.
But that's also practical effects.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is
I was just wondering how they actually did that without, because they would have been hot, you know.
But like, that's the problem
they
as well.
They overlaid it. That's what they did. Double film and then they mask it and they put it
but
over.
But it's still practical. It's not digital.
Star Wars, yes.
The problem is a lot of like, I feel like. Because like even if you look at, I was watching a video, so Corridor Digital, they're VFX guys. They did a whole video.
I'm hoping you're saying the one that I'm hoping you're saying.
Explosions.
No.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh yes, but I did watch that one last week.
So they were busy looking at CG explosions and how accurate they are, and most CG explosions are inaccurate. They are fake, like super fake. And then they looked at films. They show like a real explosion, and then
how it should look, how it should react. Like that was so good. I enjoyed.
And yet we've gotten used to what we think is an explosion is not an explosion.
I know I've done explosion in CG, so when I watched that, I was like deeply convicted.
But then also though, technology has advanced. So like I know with like explosion simulations and that there's certain it's improving. So CG is improving.
You can give it direction. You can give it a type of. I watched one today on like Corridor, and this is us advertising Corridor. So Corridor, you should like talk about us sometime. You know, about the catch in Spider-Man. The first Tobey Maguire, when he caught all the lunches and stuff.
Didn't he do 156 or 7 takes?
Like they did that for real. Like there was a practical effects. And then they tried to do it. They tried to simulate it, and they did it in 33 takes. They did it in 33 takes. It was brilliant. And it was hilarious at the same time. But those are practical effects.
Yeah. No, practical is awesome. This, though, is the only Quentin Tarantino movie that takes place completely in chronological order and without flashbacks.
That's true. I never thought about that.
I didn't think about it either until I read the I was like, oh, wow, it is literally a place from start to finish.
That's where you want to phone Quentin up. Quentin, what's happening? We were doing the thing so well.
I personally don't think it was a bad film. Can I just say, the first part, I didn't enjoy the lap dance like that. I was just like, really? And then the conversation in also like, it was very boyish, if I could put it like that, because all the conversations were mainly between chicks, but the things the chicks were talking about, I was
and there
just
were a lot of chicks' feet in this one as well.
Yeah, but that's a Quentin Tarantino thing. Yeah, like it started with chicks' chick's feet on the
Exactly.
dashboard.
Yeah.
But like the chicks, what they spoke about, I was just like, a guy definitely wrote this dialogue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, and also like his dialogue, it wasn't the greatest dialogue. However, like I loved the shots, the action, that car chase sequence was brilliant. Like I thought that chick was dead. I thought Zoe Bauer was dead. I was like, this poor woman,
Yeah.
like she shouldn't have done the stunt or the.
And then she comes out the bushes.
I'm okay. So yeah, then also the original name was not supposed to be Death Proof. It was supposed to be Thunderbolt. But in the beginning of the movie, you actually see a screen comes up that says Quentin Tarantino's Thunderbolt, and then glitches, like that old 60s film glitches to Death Proof. So he still technically like put it in for like a few seconds and
Choose a
then
name or
glitched
whatever.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the film, so the actual film itself, was physically scratched to achieve its dirty look.
I was going to ask that question.
So it's not like it's not a old ancient, what's it called? Aged film effect.
Yeah, I was
Then
just
you can
thinking,
choose
search
how
the
realistic,
asset, you know,
yeah.
search the asset
Overlay.
there, scratched film, no, damaged
on
film,
YouTube.
no, I know in After Effects, what is it?
Final Cut's its aged film.
Yeah, aged.
And then you can choose
scratched
realistic
film.
grain.
Bad TV, that's what it is on After Effects.
Bad
yeah.
TV.
Yeah, bad TV, drag,
You know,
drop.
they literally scratched the film to achieve its dirty look rather than digitally scratching it. They practically.
I'm sure Quentin wanted to be there when they did it. Because imagine, it's too much, guys. Can you go back?
We have the second film here, right?
You guys didn't
No.
copy. You guys didn't copy. Everybody knows you copy the film and then you.
You know the jukebox that was in the bar?
Yeah,
That's Quentin's.
I knew there was going to be something
called
of his in
Amy.
it. Yeah.
And he transported it all the way to Austin, Texas.
Go fetch my jukebox, will you?
Also, Tarantino came up with the idea of Death Proof when he was having a drunken hotel night with a friend, Sean Penn. You know Sean Penn, right?
Yeah.
Tarantino wanted to buy a Volvo because he didn't want to die in some auto accidents like the one in Pulp Fiction. And then in regards to the safety of the car, Sean Penn said, well, you could take any car and give it to a stunt team, and for $10,000 or $15,000, they can death proof it for you. And the death proof phrase had stuck in his mind after
you
that.
go.
And then he
Death-proof a
came
car.
up with the idea of a serial killer stuntsman. I think actually the worst type of serial killer could be a stunts person, because like their job was not to die, and now they are trying to kill you.
They would know exactly. Because there's obviously a lot of science and, there's a lot of stuff.
Physics, yeah.
A lot of things that we don't think. Like, I know there was a program I was watching and the guy was testing the car's impact. And he said just before impact, he has to take his hands off the steering wheel. Because apparently what happens is when your hands are like this and on impact, you break your wrists. Makes sense, doesn't it? Stuff you never think about before.
So guys, if you get in a car accident,
Just go, Are you okay? I'm
the
good.
movie show Saving Lives.
I'm good. My wrists are good. Let me
But
help.
also, Quentin was actually saying in another interview that the character stuntman Mike, most stunt people that he's spoken to have said that they know of a stuntman like that who, but not as in the serial killer, but what I'm
I
saying
was
is
just about to
like
say.
the character is not that far off from reality, because like they know of a lot of stuntsmen who like they did a couple of work or a couple of movies. The movie or the person they were doing stunts for, like most people don't know. I don't know if you remember, there was that scene in the bar where he was busy telling them, "Yo, no, I was the person in it," and then
And they
eventually
didn't
was
even
like,
know.
"Yeah, you don't know any of these people, do you?" And then they were
he's
like,
just
"No,
sit down
sorry."
and-
So like they've done work, but most people don't even know the work that they've done, and now they're kind of out of jobs because like CG and stuff is taken over, and they're even dressed like he dressed, so like the skinny
Yeah.
jeans, the jacket, the glasses.
And not only that, if you think about it, most stuntsmen, they have to have a similar look-alike and body build as a certain actor.
yeah.
So if you don't, if that person that you look alike or have the same body builder, let's say you've got 5 good actors. If they're not in a movie production at that time that is requiring your stunts skill, then
You go and work.
you're out of work.
It's even
yeah.
like he even portrayed it with Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm.
Brad Pitt was Leonardo DiCaprio's stunt man,
Exactly.
but then eventually he couldn't find work anymore, and so he just started. He would drive Leonardo around. He became like his driver. He'd fix his TV satellites when
I suppose you could be like a practical effects supervisor. Yeah, racing movies, safety, car 101, driving safety,
But I think you still have to have connections.
stunts, death-proofing cars.
There we go.
Going to airbag.
Maybe they want to be
company.
in the film though,
Yeah, they do.
even though no one knows it was them.
Yeah, it's one of those things, he like makes the best airbag and he's just not satisfied
So he starts killing people.
with his airbags.
You see? But also what I like was that Quentin Tarantino does is his films include the film industry. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was like film industry galore. Like I
It's
love
like his
that movie.
opinion about something,
Yes.
and then he makes a movie about
And
it.
then like this one had stuntsmen, makeup artists, like the whole thing was like people who work in the film
True,
industry.
true.
Pulp Fiction, she had done a pilot show. Like he'll bring that in. Yeah. So the next film after Death Proof that he made was Inglorious, right? Which personally for me is really at the top of Quentin Tarantino's list. Then after
I'll never forget that German guy. What was
Christoph Waltz.
Yes,
His character was
such
beautiful.
a cool guy.
Then it was Django, which was number 7, which we've watched. So we've watched both of those. And then it was The Hateful Eight. So The Hateful Eight we haven't watched.
Which
and
is his
that
8th film.
that was his 8th film. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Which
and
we
then
have watched.
his 10th film has not come out yet. So
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino has one more film to make. We have one more film to review before that film, which is The Hateful Eight. We have done Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You can go check our previous episodes
There
for
you go.
those.
Can go right now.
Yeah. But we have almost gotten to the end of our Quentin Tarantino marathon.
And then I guess we'll have to pick on another director, or we'll just.
We have to do The Great Gatsby. I cannot believe I don't shame me. I watched that movie like 2 weeks ago for the first time properly, and I was just like, this movie's beautiful. But that was Baz as well, 2013,
Yeah.
but was brilliant.
Yeah.
Was that?
I
it
did
was-
mention it in when we did Elvis that I picked up the similar. There's a trait.
Yeah,
of,
no, Baz has a
of
very
Baz, yeah.
very specific trait.
That'll be quite a.
Oh, there's also a film. I don't know if it's good, but there's a film. So when Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were in film school, they wrote a script together. And that was the first big movie that they were in was that script. So they wrote the script specifically so that they could star in it. And that I think it also has Robin Williams in it that they then made fresh out of film school. And the two of them
That's the way to
actually
go.
wrote the script together.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
So that one, it's called Good Live Hunting or Good Life Hunting. I wrote
Goodwill Hunting.
Goodwill. Is it Goodwill? I misspelled it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Wait.
Really?
Yeah.
You
Have
said
you
who?
watched it?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
You said Matt Damon.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
That makes a lot of sense.
And Robin Williams was in it.
Wow. Yeah, it's with Goodwill. Okay.
Is it Goodwill Hunting?
Goodwill Hunting?
I
yeah.
wrote Good LIVK Hunting.
LIVK.
Do you know what LIVK?
No, I think your phone.
Yeah, no,
probably-
changed it. Goodwill Hunting, 1997.
Wow.
And it was written by Ben
And Matt
Affleck and
Damon's
Matt
a
Damon.
good actor
Yeah,
as
see,
well.
screenplay Matt Damon, Ben Affleck.
That's it.
So that could possibly be the. I feel like we're just going to be watching old movies because recent movies suck.
Yeah.
Although Bullet Train was good, right? Have you watched Bullet Train?
I'm going to.
Bullet Train was very good.
I have my hands on it
Brad
now.
Pitt,
Yes, I have my hands on it.
Guy Ritchie field.
Yes, in fact, that's actually what we were going to watch on Saturday, and then we realized it is not kiddie proof.
Yeah, that one. Strong.
So we were like, thank you. I had my wife look at the trailer. She just looks at me. She's like, no, not for the kids, my dear.
Kids, go to bed. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. Go to sleep. What?
Quickly, honey, go get the sleeping pills. No, don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. Don't do that. That was not recommended by me. It was a joke. Finished. End of the
Now,
joke.
if you see Ryan's kids sleeping, you're like,
I'm going to feel guilty whenever my kids are sleeping now.
Ryan?
Oh, look at him sleeping. This is not what you think. No, I wasn't going to. No, that's not what you did.
Ryan, why are you so guilty? Why are you acting guilty? No, I swear, Ryan.
Yeah.
Stuntman Ryan.
No.
Yeah. So Death Proof, I enjoyed. I specifically enjoyed the end of it. I really enjoyed
Why? Because he died.
I'm sorry for what he did to those first girls.
Yeah.
I was just like, kill him.
Yeah.
Those were my honest thoughts.
I thought he was gonna just live a bit longer in a weird way. It was sort of just like chase after them, and then they.
No, that chase was long.
And
then they still jumped back in the car, and then he drove off.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And then they were still driving. And then he still thought he'd lost them, remember?
Yeah.
But then for me, it was when she kicked his face in. I honestly got the vibes that this was based on a true story of like a serial killer who was going after female, like, especially with the casting photos at the end in the trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, in the credits, sorry. I don't know if you saw that. Like, I was like, I wonder if this is a true life story of a stunt double who like went mad and became a serial killer. But as far as we know, it's not.
Who knows?
Don't do it, guys.
Just retire and be glad.
Retire and be glad.
Train someone else up.
Yeah, go into theater, you know. That's what Quentin Tarantino is going to do.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's been the movie show. Next up, The Hateful Eight. I'm actually excited. Tim said The Hateful Eight is his favorite Quentin Tarantino film.
Is it?
So I think it's going to be good.
Okay, we got big.
And it's pretty modern. It's pretty recent. It was the last film before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh.
So it's
we're
like
watching a modern film.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Recent times.
That is going to be quite nice.
But this has been the movie show.
On your favorite ORSPS.
Peace.
Cheers.